Welcome to the Mystic Millionaire Podcast, where wealth is energy, success is a mindset, and abundance is your birthright. I am Danielle Amos, your host and mentor, here to help you unlock prosperity, embody confidence, and manifest a life you love. Take a breath, align with your truth, and let's manifest millions. Lisette Correa is a Puerto Rican artist based in Atlanta, celebrated for her vibrant and whimsical style that intertwines Caribbean culture and spirituality into every creation. Her work spans a variety of mediums, including fashion design, large-scale murals, immersive installations, and dynamic canvas pieces, with radiant colors, expressive line work, and her signature leopard print. ARRRTADDICT brings the energy of Puerto Rican and African American cultures to life. Her ever-evolving portfolio reflects a deep commitment to exploring new forms of expression. Through colorful skin tones and bold imagery, her art inspires reflection on cultural connections, fostering unity and understanding. So this conversation with Lisette was fire because her personality shines. She is a beacon of light. She talks about how she transitioned from the corporate art fashion industry into painting some of Atlanta's most prominent murals in the city. And she talks about her own spiritual journey and how important that was to her current career. You're going to love this conversation and definitely the behind the scenes video. Lisette, welcome to the Mystic Millionaire Podcast studio. Thank you for being here. We've already recorded a full-on episode.
Right, I thought we were in it already. I was like, okay, we're sailing.
Yeah, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
So we were just talking about identity shifts, and I want to go right into that because you mentioned how you always used to wear black, and even your art was black and white as an artist. And with a pop of color, I think you said red. And you had an experience in Cuba, a spiritual experience. I'd like you to share about that. But then also, let's get into now who is Lisette all of a sudden, who's wearing color, who's making art in color, and how you did that and be okay with the shift. It sounds like it just happened. But share with me first the spiritual experience that you...
So the spiritual experience happened at a time when I was living in LA, and I just really needed change. It was a time that I'll also just state that I was living in downtown LA, and I was also drinking a lot and partying a lot. My friends were DJs and club promoters. I was doing a lot and also working a full-time job that required a lot of energy from me as well. So I think I was like feeling drained. I also went through a big breakup at that time, and I knew I needed something new. And I was also looking for a spiritual practice that I can identify with. And at that time, you know, I rooted back into like my family's history, into the times that like things felt good. And I remembered, you know, when my mother would take these baths with milk and white rose petals and her perfume, and this woman would come and pray over it. And there was something about that stood out in my mind. And I come to find out that it was a Santeria, you know, ritual practice that my mom used to do. And she never really furthered it much more than those, like that thing and maybe one or two other little things. But I wanted to further it. So I go to Cuba on like an Eat, Pray, Love trip by myself at 27. And I remember just also having to be so bold because I'm Puerto Rican, but I was definitely raised like very New Yorican, and I don't speak Spanish. I understand it perfectly, but I speak like Spanglish back. And I go up to this man who had Ilequis on. Okay. So I went up to this guy and asked him, like, where'd you get your Ilequis? He only spoke Spanish, but he was able to understand English. So it was like, oh, we're good. And he took me to his padrino, which a padrino is, I would say, if I can transition to a different, almost like your own preacher. It's like the person who guides you, like a spiritual coach. Okay. And we did a whole ritual.
Wow.
And while my time in Cuba, there was several takeaways that I got. One, that me doing that, a ritual, it brought me back to just the roots of the earth, right? And how connected we are to that. And those practices, I felt like I can truly identify with. And I felt like I was engaged in it because it was the things that, like, I know what all these elements are. I understand these elements. I know where these elements come from, and then you have to go to a botanica to get these elements. So it's also the practice of me, the intention behind, I know I'm getting ready to do this ritual, and I have to be intentional about going and buying every little element that I'm going to use.
What's so fascinating is you went to a man, you saw the beads, and then he took you to his mentor.
Yeah.
And like, that doesn't happen every day. Like, like that's pretty incredible. Nothing's a coincidence. Yes. I don't believe. And what an incredible experience.
I've always had this mindset. I want to say it's because I have a mom that's from New York, but she's always told me closed mouths don't get fed.
Okay.
And I live my life that way. Like, if I want something, I'm going to figure out how to get it. I'm not somebody who's afraid of a no, because that's all anybody can do is tell you no.
Huge.
Yeah. Okay. So that's why going up to him, I was like, all right. And also, I think I go by energy. Like, he felt right. And he was a big dude too, Yeah. But his energy felt right. And he had a beautiful smile. So I also took that into, and I was like, okay, this guy feels good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I went on that experience, and it was the colors also in Cuba that I took from me, is in Santeria, nobody wears all black. It's always bright colors. And it's because colors, it attracts healing to you. It attracts beauty to you. It attracts, wealth and abundance. And at that time, I was wearing all black, living in LA. I feel like LA and New York, working in the fashion industry, like everybody wears all black, So my closet was just filled with all black clothes. And when I came back from my trip, I changed my whole wardrobe. I think today, it sounds contradictory for me to be wearing all black today, but I also feel like I look at black different. When I think about where I was back then mentally and spiritually, I was in a very emo black phase, but I can wear a black occasionally now, and I know that my soul is so bright and I have so much joy in me that is not something that's going to block me. You know?
You're still so self-expressed.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's different. But even the color white has been something that has been very big to me because of Santeria. And, white, when we think about it on the spectrum of all types of practices, it's used in baptismals. It's just a color of purity, and I think one of my favorite things about where white plays a role of beginnings and attracting things into my life today is everything I paint, whether it's a canvas or a mural, I have to paint it white first.
And
it's
I love a fresh start.
Yeah, it's a fresh start. And it's then I'm attracting the abundance by then putting my color on top.
What was it like to go from wearing all black to all of a sudden embodying and becoming a person that shows up in color? Did people, I'm sure your family noticed.
Oh, my family definitely noticed.
And your colleagues at work, who is this version of Lisette? We've only seen you in all black, and here you are now wearing red and blue and purple, whatever.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing for me was I felt light.
Okay.
I think wearing all black and then going from color, you feel how heavy just wearing only black is, especially if you're not in a spiritually abundant place.
And perhaps wearing all black was just something that you accepted, but the truth is you're obviously very colorful.
Yes.
Have a vibrant personality. So perhaps you were putting yourself in the box because this is what we do in LA. This is what we do in New York and the fashion industry. And
right.
Really. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think I was also just in my grunge era then. There were so many different reasons why I decided to wear all black. But I do remember once I started to transition to wear brighter colors, I felt so much lighter. And then seeing the reaction, how you attract people, there was a huge difference, when I'm wearing bright colors, I feel like more people want to come up to me and have conversations. When I'm wearing all black, I do feel a shift where it's not everybody's going to come up to you,
Yeah. It's not as approachable.
It's not as approachable. Yeah. Exactly. So I think that was the biggest transition that I saw within my artwork, right? Because my artwork was originally just black, white with a pop of red. When I went full color, my Instagram blew up and I saw such a big impact. And that's when I also started to dive into color therapy and
Okay.
how now
What's color therapy?
color therapy is basically like each color, it shifts things in your mood and like
Okay.
how you feel, almost like your chakras.
Okay.
So it's a similar thing, and different colors can make you feel different things. So I started to get into, okay, I want all my colors to be extremely vibrant. There's a difference of how a pale blue can make you feel versus a vibrant blue, like almost like a neon blue.
So is this like something that's known? So
Yeah.
can you tell me
There's
like what?
books that you
Okay,
can buy.
tell me a little bit about this. Okay, so like red, for example, what does red, what do you know?
So I don't know like offhand
Uh-huh,
about, specifically each color, but I just, started, I have read some stuff,
Yeah,
but I don't know, like I couldn't
it's
dive deep
fascinating.
into
Yeah.
it with you, but I definitely, started to look at like color therapy and just how it can be healing. I think one of the big turn for me was when I did my Martin Luther King mural that was on Moreland. And I did that right before COVID. I didn't know COVID was going to happen, but I was tired of every, January, here comes the Martin Luther King pics, and they're all in black and white. And to me, I always saw him as like such a vibrant man with a vibrant personality who had this beautiful dream for, humanity to be united. To me, that's color. All that is color. Like, I don't see black and white in that. Even though he was fighting for black and white people to be united, it's like, still, why are we only, portraying him as black and white? And so I decided to do this like really colorful, vibrant, very whimsical, like his suit was filled with different patterns and stuff, mural of him on Moreland. And I want to say at least a month later, COVID happened and we were all locked in our houses. And, at that time, people would only go outside. Like your immediate thing was like, let me go out for a jog. Let me go for a walk. I started to get so many DMs of people like in tears telling me how every day they go for a walk just to walk by that mural because it's so vibrant that the colors make them feel happy versus being in their house and being sad. Do you know, I took that and when I did make my biggest pivot, it was something that I took and I said, okay, I need to create merch for people's homes so that they can feel that brightness inside their home.
Wow.
Even
Love that.
COVID, I had
Yeah.
I have like gray sheets, like a slate gray sheet, bed sheets. As soon as they told us that we had to be in our house, I went on Amazon, bright yellow bed sheets. You can't, yes, you can't be sad. Like there's no way that you could be sad if you're waking up in bright yellow bed sheets. Like how can you start off sad? And it helped me. It's color therapy.
I love that. What else did you make for people's homes, or what changes did you make for yourself?
So I did shower curtains with artwork.
That's so
that was
smart.
bright and vibrant. I did pillowcases, art prints, and what else did I do? I did a lot of sticker packs. But I would say the shower curtains and pillowcases sold the most. Like that was like my moneymaker during COVID. I was just pushing out a bunch of shower curtains and pillowcases with my artwork on it, and people were eating them up.
Yeah, that makes sense. It is a mural, right?
Yeah.
It's like a blank space that we know everyone has.
Exactly.
It's their shower.
Yeah.
How smart. That's
And
great.
I don't think anybody has. How many people have like a cool shower curtain? Like, do you ever go to somebody's house and you're like, wow, I love your shower
they're
curtain?
like usually like patterned, like, yeah.
Yeah, and
That's
pretty
great.
like, muted
Neutral.
tones. So I think me bringing these bright, vibrant portraits to people's showers, it really was a game changer, and I think shower time is a very intentional time. Like it's a time that it's just you cleansing your temple, right? And you're like thinking. That's my thinking time. I probably come up with the greatest ideas in the shower.
And it's something that we do, most people, I hope, every day. And so it's like a place that you go. And if you make a ritual out of it and really embody the colors that you see on the curtain, that's huge.
Yeah. Yeah.
What
it was
a great
game
idea.
changer.
So I know we talked about offline in the other episode, the bonus ep, about a mentor that really changed your life, it sounds like, and encouraged you to be you. You talk about that, how important that person was. Maybe you didn't know at the time, but now connecting the dots looking back.
My art director. And he was the first time that I had an art director that saw me not as a robot in the fashion industry, but he saw me as an artist. And it was always hard for me to call myself an artist because I felt like I was good at everything that was trending at the time, that I didn't have a particular style. And he helped me develop my aesthetic. And it was when I started doing work for Zoomies is when I was able to really find like the art addict aesthetic and that whimsical line work. And I feel like with Zoomies, with skate artwork in general, you're able to really like speak to whatever. Like you could have fun in the things that you put on the t-shirts. They can be humorous, or they could just speak to street style, like street art. And I was able to feel free. Like I didn't have to be in this box. Like, here's your inspiration. It has to be this. And it spoke to me because I was in that world. I wasn't a skater, but I've always been heavy into, street culture, street art. I came from like a big graffiti background, and hip hop has always been like my foundation, So I think that for me, when it came to me designing Zoomies, I was designing from my soul.
Yeah.
And so the artwork that started to come out from it, I think that's where my art director was able to be like, oh, this is who you are. This is your style. And I was like, what? You think so? And he was like, yes, I want you to do more of this.
Amazing.
And had
he
me
could
focus.
Probably feel your soul coming out, and it's like that sells because it's authentic.
100%. And, he had me focus a lot more on that Zoomy style, even for other different, things that I would design. He would always say, okay, go back, do your style. Like whenever if we had a project, let's say it was for Target, he'd be like, okay, it's a Pride collection for Target, but I want you to illustrate it in your style. And I was like, oh, I have a style. So it felt cool. And my second, mentor, I would say that really influenced my biggest pivot was me pivoting, to be a full-time artist. And that was during COVID. Both of them work for the same company. One was my art director and the other one is my creative director. And at the time I was already living in Atlanta. I think I maybe painted like 2 murals at the time, but I've always dropped like my own little t-shirt collections, limited, edition stuff on the side. Like, so I already had like an art addict name for myself, but no where it is today. And I think I did one Nike collaboration at this point too, but I was still working full time. And COVID happened. First, we got furloughed for 3 months. So I was living my best life. I was like, I'm going back to work. It's cool. I'm chilling right now, like whatever. And then when we got the call that they had to let go I was a senior graphic apparel designer at the time. They had to let go of a lot of people, and especially a lot of ones that like had senior titles. And I was a part of that. I just cried. Like, I loved my company so much because I had somebody like my art director who really helped me figure out who I was as an artist, and cared about developing me. You don't get that in a corporate setting often. And then I had my creative director who, when I came back from Cuba, I'm like, so I decided after my Eat, Pray, Love trip and me doing this ritual that I need to be closer to my family. Somebody in a corporate setting could have looked at me and been like, like, get out of here. Like, you've lost it. You like, And so I remember crying to him and telling him, like, what should I do? Like, should I go apply for Coca-Cola? And he was like, no, I think you should do your own thing. And I was like, what? Like my own thing? And he's like, you've already been painting murals. You've been doing your designs on the side. And he's like, the fashion industry isn't going anywhere. If you need to come back, you have the resume to come back whenever you want. Like, you could figure that out. And he's like, but right now, you're getting a severance package. Then you're going to collect unemployment. Take that money and invest it in yourself.
Whoa.
And I thought he was insane.
Yeah.
And, even when I called my mom after the conversation, my mom's like, well, what about your benefits?
Yeah.
Like, what about, what about your 401k? Like, and I was just like, I don't know. Like, what else am I going to do right now? The fashion industry isn't hiring right now. The reason why the company lost so much money is because people weren't buying clothes anymore. You were inside your house. I did just that. And then I said to myself,
thank goodness you listened.
Yes. Thank goodness I listened, for real. But I think the other biggest thing too is like, okay, how do I do what I'm good at and make it relatable to these times that people aren't buying clothes? Like up until then I was doing murals or signing, doing my limited edition t-shirt collections. And I had a jewelry line as well. So I was like, okay, how do I make merch for homes? And that's when I started doing the shower curtains and the pillows and the art prints, and it blew. And as soon as COVID opened up just a little bit, I got like my first commission to do my biggest mural to this day. Actually, I would say it's still my biggest, on the Beltline. And it's a whole bridge. The Beltline it's like a big circle, essentially, like a pathway that people can walk down, ride their bikes down, people run down it. And there's restaurants and hotels now. The Beltline has grown so much. In Atlanta. Okay. That there's like so many things going down the Beltline. And there's also a lot of artwork.
And so the city paid you for that?
The city paid me for it.
Okay. And can you tell us, are you willing to share how much you got paid?
Oh, that one was honestly.
Or was it like a lot, like
honestly,
big?
It was my first big, it was my first big check. So I'm very thankful for it.
We're on the Mystic Millionaire Podcast.
Yes.
We like to talk about money.
It was my first big project. So it was $12,000. Honestly, when I look back at it though, because it was so massive, that project could have easily been like $30,000. Yeah. But you know what? It was my first opportunity and I got so much more projects from that.
And also it's like in one go, you're as an artist. Yeah. You're paid $12,000. Right.
100%.
Yeah.
But you want to know what my favorite part about that? Yeah. Is like the $12,000 was great, right? It's my first big check after I left the corporate world. And so I was, very thankful. But my favorite part about it is the mural that I did was called Somos Boricanos. Okay. Which is, we are Boricuas, essentially. And I wanted to do this mural highlighting Tainos because I felt like we're in this place, especially during COVID, where a lot of like statues are being torn down. We're all fighting for, like even today, right now, we're fighting for certain books, our education to stay what it is, because it's important for us to know about the past, to be able to reflect on the present. And I wanted to create a mural that highlighted the Tainos, which are the indigenous people of the Caribbean. And when we talk about indigenous people, especially when we think about America, I think we focus so much on Native Americans. When I started to do studies on the Tainos, I found out that, in fact, they were the first indigenous people that Christopher Columbus colonized, because they were in the islands and he went to the islands before he went to America. But we never hear about the Tainos, right? Then I also found that Tainos are one of the few indigenous peoples that have female caciques, which are chiefs. So I ran with that. I was like, women in power? I live for this story. This needs to be told. So I did this whole mural. It's a whole bridge, both sides, underneath pillars, and then like a whole crossway on the opposite side of the Beltline with the Kemis, which are like the Taino gods. And what brought me most joy more than the check for that is I did a mural reveal. And every time I was painting, Puerto Rican people would come up to me, one or two would come up to me and say, I love this because there's no Puerto Rican people here. And I'm like, every day, one or two Puerto Rican people keep coming up to me. Obviously, there is Puerto Rican people here. Okay, I'm going to do a mural reveal and invite Puerto Ricans. Oh, I love that. I had over 850 Puerto Rican people come to my mural reveal. And the reactions that I got from people crying, people, just feeling like, oh my gosh, we are here. We're represented here, that meant more than the check.
That's we call psychic income where in my world. Yeah. And so we got both. Yeah. You got the physical money, which is important. And you get that through your service and being good at what you do. There's a law of compensation. Yeah. And you were compensated for that. And you get to be compensated, like add zeros to that. Yeah. Because you're making a difference.
100%.
And making an impact. And that's why we get paid, doing what you love.
And for me, I just need the money to pay my bills and, eat oysters.
And you get to have it all, though.
So oysters is really what I need in my life. Okay. It's like my treat every time I finish a project. But I think it's the work that like impacts people. Yeah. That's the check for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And you get to receive the money too.
Yeah. And I get to live nice. Totally. I have a beautiful loft.
Love it. You mentioned seeing your t-shirts on people. And I think this went back to your corporate. Maybe you do now. But I would love to just touch on the feeling, what that felt like to go to Coachella or some other festival and see people wearing the designs. I'm just curious.
Oh, it's so cool. It is a crazy feeling. Yeah. And I still see it to this day, like, because I've done so many different types of designs, even stuff for like Disney, Live Nation. I've done a lot of those like band tees. Yeah. So you go to a festival, everybody's wearing band tees, you know? So I see my stuff all the time. I did the first Pride collection for Target and Macy's. in the first Black History Month collection for Target. I've been able to do a lot of really cool things. I think one of my favorite things was a Hello Kitty collection for Urban Outfitters.
Love that.
And I did the first, like when Lisa Frank came back into the scene, I did her first collection for Urban Outfitters. So I've been able to have my hands on some really cool projects and also see a lot of celebrities wearing my t-shirts, So that's also amazing. And it feels really good all the time. I think one of my favorite moments was I was in Miami and I was waiting at a crosswalk and these people tapped me on my shoulder and I turn around and they're like, I can tell they have an accent. I want to say they were French, just visiting Miami, asking me for directions. And I was like, you're wearing my t-shirt. And she was like, huh? And I was like, your t-shirt? I designed it. She was like, huh? Get your take a picture. I was like, so it was just like, what are the odds of that? Like me turning around and like, I've designed your t-shirt. You just want to ask me for directions,
I love that.
It's an amazing feeling for sure.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
As we wrap, and I feel like we could have your energy in the studio all day. You're such a vibrant, no coincidence, person and persona. You can just feel the energy exuding from you. So thank you for gifting us.
That's the greatest compliment.
Yeah. It's really good and really, really authentic as well. So thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have any last words of wisdom for our audience that you'd like to share about your life experience, anything that you believe these wonderful women would benefit from?
I would say never be afraid to pivot. I think when I want to relate it back to like my artistry, right? I work on a brand new blank canvas every day and I get to paint a new picture every day. And I think when we come to these points in life where we have this blank canvas, we're a little bit more scared because we think of it like it's life. Oh my gosh, what's next for me? But that pivot moment allows you to paint a new picture on your canvas of life. Mm-hmm. So never be afraid to pivot because it always, at the end of the day, it's always going to be you blooming.
I love that. Can we go deeper into that for a minute?
Yeah.
When you have a blank canvas in your studio, do you see, like visualize what you're about to put on that canvas first, or do you just let it happen?
I'm very graphic designer mindset. Okay. So I do all my illustrations first in graphically. So I use Procreate. And so I'll illustrate everything first. And then I start doing the canvases. I also do dimensional canvases. I work with wood and I cut out the certain shapes within the canvas. So it also helps me to illustrate it first because I need to know what I need to cut. And then I build I build wood canvases. So I build them myself. Okay. So I have to know like exactly what I'm cutting before I'm just like free and flowy.
And do you see it in your mind before you start cutting?
Yeah. I think that's one of the blessings that I take away from working, with brands and having to do all these collaborated projects. Mm-hmm. Coming from a corporate background is as soon as a client starts talking to me about what the project is, my brain is already coming up with ideas.
And and you start to see it. And why I'm asking this question, our imagination is such an important mental faculty, and it's like in manifestation in any sort of creation. First, we have to imagine it, and then it becomes a reality. And I believe it was Picasso. He said, I'm not sure who it was, but he said, I see my picture, then I paint my picture.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can totally relate to that.
And if we think of everything from like the glass here, this was once a design in someone's mind, and then it became a reality in the 3D
100%.
world. So I love thinking about that as you as an artist. First, you got to see it in your mind.
Yeah, I'm inspired by so many different things. And I think there's like a man in my head with file cabinets, and he like organizes them because I have so many ideas that are just stored in there. And people are like, why don't you write things down? I'm like, I remember ideas that I came up with 8 years ago, and that's, for example, the Taino mural. That was something I've wanted to work on for so long. And once I got the opportunity to bring it to life, I was able to do it. It was just in my little file cabinet. So there's a lot of things that I already have stored in there that I'm ready to create. It's just about when is the time to create it.
And how do you know when the time is?
Oh, I think you feel it. Mm-hmm. I think that everything aligns and you're like, okay, now this is the time. When it's all about alignment.
And it sounds like intuition. You
And
follow your
intuition, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Amazing.
I think it's just all about being intentional at the end of the day. I think the more you focus on something that you want to create, you're manifesting it at that time, right?
Totally.
Like it's about always thinking about what you want to be next, what you want next, what you want to attract next. The more you just even think about it, I give myself like my shower time is like my thinking tank,
Yeah, same.
I even when it comes to meditating, I'm not so much of like, let me sit on my yoga mat and like meditate. I need water to meditate. Maybe it's the Florida girl in me. I don't know. Or Caribbean girl in me. But my shower is my meditation time. And in those moments, I think about what I want next for my life. And it doesn't matter if it happens tomorrow or a month from now, or it could happen 2 years from now. But I know that I'm manifesting it and it will happen. I trust in the universe.
Yeah.
I trust in God that he will bring it to me when I'm, ready for it.
Yeah, it sounds like you're really good at becoming obsessed with that future vision. That I call them future memories. And you see it in the shower and focus on it. And then knowing that it has to come to pass at some point.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
and just having the confidence in knowing that it's going to happen. Like, that's why I was saying like with pivoting, it's so important that in those pivoting moments, I understand why you have fear, but when you trust the universe enough and you know that you've done the work enough and that you are leading with intention, you're leading with love.
Yeah.
You have to know that you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
And the more that you walk around like, I'm okay, but you're still handling,
that's the secret
you
sauce.
still got to handle what you got to handle too. I always say like, you could pray, but you also have to do the work.
Totally.
There's a little bit of both, but you have to have that confidence in knowing that the universe is trying to get you to that next destination.
Yeah, absolutely. We call that in my world the law of assumption. So you use the law of assumption. You're constantly moving, assuming that what you desire is right there and it's moving towards you as much as you're moving towards it.
Right.
And so you're assuming the outcome that you desire and acting from that place of completion.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Yeah. So good.
Yeah, it's crazy because I would have never even thought that if you asked me when I was working in the corporate world that if in a few years from now, do you imagine yourself making, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 per mural? No, I would be like, what? Me? Like, get out of here. Me even being on lifts. I've been on lifts before that are 6 stories high.
Wow.
And I loved roller coasters, but I was still afraid of heights, like on that level. Yeah. Now I'm like, no problem. Let's go.
Love
6
it.
feet up high. Here we go. $25,000 in the bank,
Yeah,
But yeah, I would have never imagined.
Yeah. On some level you did because you're here and your like higher self knew that this was what you were made for because you're here.
But see, that's the thing about manifestation, right? Is that I manifested that I wanted to paint murals.
Yeah.
Did I know it was going to be on this scale?
Yeah.
No, but when I started manifesting it, by the time it came, it was even better than what I pictured.
Boom.
And that's what I'm saying is you have to trust in the universe and know that it's going to deliver what it wants you to have when you're ready for it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you gave it to me, 3 years prior, I would be like, oh, I can't go on a lift that high. Like, I'm scared, but I was ready spiritually. I was in a place that I'm like, okay, you tell me when, I'm going to make it happen. I might be scared the first day, but I'll be okay the second. But I was in a different place to be able to accept it.
Totally. Because you did the growth.
Exactly.
You did the inside.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Way to go. Lisette.
Yeah. Thank you.
Amazing.
Thank you.
What a blessing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for who you're being in the world and the inspiration.
Thanks.
So I've got 3 questions for you.
All right, let's go.
Let's go. All right. The first one is abundance in one word. Go.
Manifestation.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Second, do you have a non-negotiable thing that you invest in or that you do to keep you in a high vibration?
Oysters.
Oysters. Love it.
Oysters. I think, to me, oysters, it's like, there's a luxury. Oysters and caviar. Like, I always tell my friends, like, when I have one friend who I mentor now, she's a muralist. And she's always like, I'm like, come out with me. We're going to go like celebrate, get some expensive food. She's like, that place is too expensive. I can't afford that. I said, you have to teach the universe how you want to be treated.
Whoa. Yep.
So that's why if I'm going to go out to eat after I painted a mural and I've been sweating and, working really hard, I'm going to do what I know that I deserve.
That you're worth.
That I'm worth.
Yeah.
And I'm going to teach the universe that I want this. If I'm going to go travel, I want the best Airbnb. I want the best hotel. I want the best everything. Why? Because I'm teaching the universe that this is what I deserve.
This is my standard.
Yeah, this is my standard. Yeah.
Perfect answer. Last one. You've got one book to read, or one podcast even. I know you like podcasts. One book, though, to read for the rest of your life. Only one. What book would that be?
Okay, can I say a book and a podcast?
Sure.
So the podcast is Jay Shetty.
Okay.
I love him.
Yeah. Have you met him before?
No.
Okay.
I would love to, though. And then I would say the book, and I haven't even finished reading the book yet,
Okay.
but so far it is amazing. It's Big Sean's new book, and it's called Higher. And it's, talking about everything that we're pretty much going over is like a wealthy mindset and how to attract, abundance into your life, and how to, sometimes you need to pivot who you are at that moment to attract what you really want, So yeah, so far I haven't finished it, but so far it's really good. And I would read it again.
Love it. Great answer.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.